But I'm curious how this ended up in the time that we have. I know it's a longer story than this, and I think I'll have to have you back. But how did this from around your kitchen table start to transform or continue to transform your own health through diabetes? Did the symptoms come when you were 40?
No, because guess why? I headed them off
Mm,
because I knew early that this was in my future and I didn't want that future.
hmm. You
I've
had a heads
always
up.
been very conscious. And so I worked hard to keep my weight down. I worked hard to include movement in my life all the time. And again, you got kids, you got crazy. Nobody was crazier than me
Mm,
when it comes to having too much stuff to do, too many things to think about. And don't forget my homicidal ex on top of all this.
hmm. It's a
I
lot.
knew to get through it, I was not going to leave my kids. I was going to be the last one standing. I was going to be on my feet no matter what. And to do that, I had to eat smart and move. And here's one more: sleep.
Great. Well, welcome everybody to this episode of Women Fully Alive. I'm your host, Madeline Eames, and I welcome you to what is going to be a fun conversation, I know already, with Lynne Bowman. And I am not even going to tell you how old Lynne is because I will let her tell you. But what I really want to dive into today is she's a grandma. She's the author of an Amazon best-selling book, Brownies for Breakfast, and she has a journey to tell us about health, about aging gracefully, about aging with joy and vitality. And I think you're gonna hear just from listening to Lynne, you're gonna hear an embodiment of what that means. So, welcome to the podcast, Lynne.
I love doing this, as you already know, and love talking with women, especially. I mean, I love guys. I'm married to a great guy. Uh, but there's something about the society of women that is so nourishing. And I want one of the things that I love talking about is use food for
Okay.
connection. You know,
Use food for
we
connection. I
are
love
as
that.
nourished by our connections as we are by our food. They go together. Human
Okay.
beings have always eaten together, except for maybe that guy
Yeah.
off to catch something and, ate a bone in a cave somewhere. But we are designed and geared to eat together, to share food.
Hmm.
We've come to this place where we're eating out of bags in the back of cars, and our kids are eating out of bags, in
Yeah.
the back. And I'm sorry, that's just wrong. It is wrong.
Mm.
And so,
So
yes.
tell us about, yeah, how did you get to be, how tell us a little bit about your journey and how this happened for you to get to where you are right now.
Okay, well, as we're talking, I realize, well, I'm a hedonist, I I want things to be beautiful and taste good and be fun and so on. And so I think that's a kind of a lifelong quest for many of us is make it good, whatever it is. And like many of us, I had some bumps along the road that put me in the gutter, in the dust, Um, and it began with my mom dying when I was very young. She was young. She was in her 40s. I was 18. And she had lived with chronic disease. I had lived with her chronic disease in my teenage years and was one of her caregivers. And it was my normal, that was the life I knew. And so it was only later that I looked back and realized that that was what gave me this lifelong consciousness about what chronic disease does, not just to the person who has it, but to their families. It
Right.
breaks you financially, it breaks you emotionally, it saps so much of the joy out of the lives around you as well as your own.
Mhm.
And I think Americans, and of course, we can sort of lump Canadians in with this, I guess, but Americans have this rising rate of chronic disease that is wrecking us economically and wrecking us socially.
Mhm.
And it's kind of an either like chicken and eggy kind of thing. But I rack up a lot of it to food, and most of it maybe to food. And it goes back to big food, to manufactured food. In the 50s and 60s, our moms were so thrilled to be able to open a package up and make a meal and not spend their lives in the kitchen like their moms did.
Yeah.
And now I see us kind of beginning um, a journey back into the kitchen. And I would love to encourage people. I don't want you in there all day with an apron on. No, but you can't be healthy if you don't cook something. If
Mhm.
you're not making food for yourself, for your family, chances are very poor that you can eat at all well. Because in restaurants, and who doesn't love going out to eat to a nice place? But that's not particularly healthy food. I mean, if you make a special effort to go out to a vegetarian or a, farm to table kind of place, you're going to get better food. But you still don't know what you're eating for the most part. And think
Mhm.
about it. Throughout history, people have known what they were eating because
Yeah.
they pulled it out of the ground or they shot it in the forest or something. But if you don't know what you're eating, it's kind of like not knowing who's sleeping in the next room.
Yeah.
You
Just
need
mindlessly putting something into your body and you have no relationship to what it is.
absolutely. And a thing that I'm Granny here, always hollering about this. Read the label. Because if you don't carefully read, if first of all, if it's coming packaged in something, that's suspect right
Yeah.
there.
That's
But
already a
it's already a problem.
sign.
But then when you read that label, you'll see how carefully the manufacturers have disguised a lot of the things in that food.
Ah,
And most of those items are sugar in
right.
some form. So,
And half of them
excuse
we can't, if you can't pronounce it, and if the name, if the names are this long and you don't know what they are, that's probably a problem.
probably a problem. Although, a thing I want everybody to know about today, because I find so many people don't know this. Now, having been basically lifelong type 2 diabetic, I
Okay.
discovered, like a lot of women do, in pregnancy or after my pregnancy, my first child was 10 pounds. He was 6 weeks late. For any of you who have born children, just
Oh,
picture that.
no.
They don't do that anymore. Difference is the docs were all men. If any
Mm,
one of those men had ever carried a child for 2 or 3 weeks longer, let alone 6 weeks longer than they thought they should, and they kept saying, "Well, you have the date wrong." I do not have the date wrong.
you
Um,
know. Yeah.
you know, so this first child, my son, who is now, get this, going to be 50 this summer. What?
It's a shocker, isn't it?
What? My baby. Um, anyway, so I had him by emergency C-section after I had can I say shit fit on the air?
I
Um,
think yeah. Go
okay,
ahead.
in the doctor's office, get him out. Get this
Yeah.
baby out. Um, and
Oh.
so I had this emergency C-section, and he was 10 pounds, and
Mm-hmm.
I was not a large woman, as you can see.
Mm.
And so the doctors at that point said, "Oh," and this was in the South, this is in North Carolina. "Oh, Miss Bowman, you probably had gestational diabetes." Uh-huh.
Oh,
Well, now they test for these things,
yes.
the different, having children with my daughters, having been now in the room with my girls when they gave birth to children.
Mm,
And they're surrounded by these beautiful female doctors and
yeah.
lactation coaches and nurse practitioners. And oh my God, angels around. Girls, what a difference. If you
Mm,
don't think that we have made some progress in civilization, please, I'm telling you, huge, huge, huge. And now
yeah.
I also
It,
know,
it kind of feels like the way it was supposed to be somehow.
yes,
Like that, before we
women
got very
helping,
medicalized.
right, women helping women have babies. And my son, who's about to be 50, and his sweetheart just had their first baby 8 months ago.
Mm.
And it was one of the births underwater, and they were surrounded by these angelic women in the trees, and it was all so wonderful. And she is the most gorgeous baby that, and they had medicals on standby, which you should,
Right.
if
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
need that kind of help. But most of the time, you don't. Um,
Yeah.
and seeing the joy and healthfulness and so on of this kind of birth, I mean, what a difference. What a
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah.
So there I
So
was.
that was a shocker to find out that you had gestational diabetes.
Right, that came as a shock. And then I said, well, so what shall I do? Oh, well, you just kind of watch it and keep your weight. And then when you're in your 40s, you'll probably develop type 2 diabetes fully. Oh, so
Oh.
when I got into my 40s, I started asking to be tested and can you look at this? And they'd look at me and then, well, you're not overweight, you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
I finally talked someone into doing, and I don't even remember if at that time it was hemoglobin A1C or what, but they tested, they said, oh yeah, your numbers aren't great. And then my question, well, what do I do now? Well, keep your weight down. And of
And
course,
that was it.
as any of us know, if you have any kind of a metabolic disorder, keeping your weight down is a different challenge than it is for other people.
Yeah.
So I was just super conscious, Madeline, of this thing kind of, because of the history I've given you now with my mom, this chronic disease thing hanging over my head.
Yes.
And I was having none of it. I was going to stay on my feet, stay healthy. And along with that, I had to end a really awful marriage. I had three toddlers
Mm,
and a crazy homicidal ex. He was a Vietnam vet, Marine, also part of the time, part of our history. And again,
yeah.
so many families went through this.
Yeah.
And here was this handsome, tall, beautifully educated man who had been so morally damaged
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
by what he
Oh my
did
goodness, yes. That's an
that
incredible amount of strength, though, for you with three toddlers to realize this was part of it. Like, this is part of the picture that now, not only do I have to like get healthy, but getting healthy, part of that's leaving a toxic marriage.
well, and you've talked about how we women are about, just toughing it out and doing the right
Mhm.
thing and so on. And
We
I know
endure. Yeah.
I made vows. It was my plan to stay married forever. But when I realized that I was going to die or my kids were going to die if I stuck with
Mhm.
that, I got on a
Mm.
train with the three of them. They were 2, 3, and 4, with everything they could carry and everything I could carry. And we went from North Carolina to California because my big sister, 4 years older than me, I'm very smart, um, said, get your ass out here now.
Now.
We will make, we'll take it. Yeah, it'll be all right. We'll find a way. So woman, she was the one who said to me, just get here, bring the
Right.
kids. So we lived in her driveway in a camping trailer for a few weeks until I could get work. But the good news was it was 1980. It was the Silicon Valley.
Mm.
They were so desperate for people who could do what I did, which was write advertising copy. And I was also could do art direction and had enough experience, had a book which is what they called it in those days of my ads. And I had been freelancing all through the birth of my kids. And, because part of me understood that I was going to have to pull the wagon, you know.
Right.
Um, so I started work and I had an ability to translate engineering because my dad was an engineer, my sister was an engineer. I knew a lot of geeks. I knew how to talk that way. And so I could write about this new technology, the microcomputer,
Mm.
um, in language that consumers understood.
Mm.
So that was my career, and I was immediately making twice the money I was making in North Carolina, and um, off we went. Now, the struggle with my husband went on for many years until he finally took his own life,
Ah,
which is what happened to more of those guys than died in combat. And I say that because
oh,
I think people still don't know that.
I don't think people do know that. That I didn't know that number. Yeah. We know it's a
Huge number,
problem, but we didn't know that. Don't know the
huge,
numbers.
huge number.
Mm. Wow.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so that was our crazy life. Kids, school, career, crazy ex. Um,
Hmm.
and he did time. He came after us, and
So stressful.
ended up, on page 3 of the paper and in San Quentin and all those things. And to any of you who are listening who are going through a thing
Mm.
like this, there was no one then to say to me, "You're not the only one. We're out
Right.
there. There are other people. You are not the only one."
Mm.
It happens to everyone in one
Mm.
form or another. Maybe you have parents who are abusive. Maybe you have a boss, who's trying to sink you. I mean, there's always an attack, right, coming.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, and you and Heather also talked about how women accommodate.
Yeah. Yeah. We learn to accommodate, and because we think that it's our role to manage this
Or
situation
it's our
that's,
fault. Or
or
it's
it's
our
our
fault.
fault.
Right.
And if we spoke to other women like we can now and, take advantage of, and be vulnerable, we find out that we're not the only one. And we're all like kind of trying to manage our situations that in some cases are killing us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I know our time is limited, so I want to
Yeah.
skip
That's,
to the end, which is I've never been happier. That's what I want women to know.
mhm.
We've always been told that getting older was this gradual decline that was going to take our joy away and we wouldn't be able to do with it. Well, girls, I'm
Mhm.
working out 4 days a week with an adorable, great trainer, young man.
Love
Um,
it.
yeah, 4 mornings a week. I'm doing strength training, weights, which you need to do for your bones. Uh,
Right. We really hear that now. Yeah.
Yeah, you need that. So that's 4 mornings a week, a privilege, yes, but I'm doing it because I
Hmm.
can, because I'm old.
Hmm.
And I will have a birthday in a couple days on Friday. It'll be my 80th year. And I love yelling about that because did we ever think that our 80s
Yeah.
would be this wonderful time to look forward to?
Yeah. I love that because we talk about, oh, the 50s, oh, the 60s aren't so bad, but I'm not hearing a lot about the 70s and 80s and 90s, to be
We
honest.
fall off the edge of the earth in
Mm.
every marketing sense of the word, right?
Mm.
You just vanish. You don't count anymore. Well, sorry, I'm wearing makeup.
Mm.
I do my
And you look
hair.
gorgeous. Yeah.
Well, thank you. But this is just a message that I think gets completely missed. But the difference is I'm healthy. And so I'm out here wanting every one of you adorable creatures to be healthy.
Mm.
If you're healthy, of course, the trap is women are going, yeah, but that means I got to take care of other people. I understand that, but you also need to help them be healthy.
Yeah.
You don't have to push them around, carry them and whatever. Um, and we all know that the men in our lives won't go to a doctor until it's an emergency, which is
Hmm.
typically erectile dysfunction. That's the first emergency that so many men,
Right?
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a first sign of diabetes for many men.
Ah, okay. And I imagine a sign of many other things when you have erectile dysfunction. Maybe it's
It means,
overweight, maybe they're depressed, maybe.
well, it means your blood isn't flowing
Mm,
properly.
mm, mm.
And if your blood isn't flowing properly, then guess what?
That's a
Nothing is
problem.
going to work well.
Yeah. Yeah. So how
Um,
did you get to what was your path? Like that's an incredible transition from, unhealthy to freedom, although stressful. So how did you then start to work on your own health?
I never stopped working on my own health.
Mm,
I mean, I never ate badly. Um, my superpower, if you can say that, is I knew how to put a meal on the table in 15 minutes for myself, my friends, and then as time went on, my kids, my
mhm,
friends. My social life was around my table, Madeline, because I was, like, so I didn't have any money. All my money went to kids and house and, you know, and so, but I wanted connection. I wanted to be able to have my clients at home. So, and now my kids tell me in their middle age, my old kids tell me that that was their real education, was sitting around a table eating with my business friends, who were, of course,
mhm,
also friends. But because the kids had to help get the food on the table, help clear it away, and then they had to participate like good folks in the conversation, they
mhm.
they knew if I shot them an eyebrow, during a meal or whatever, it's like, hey, no,
Yeah.
excused. Um, they had to behave.
Yeah.
They had to know what was going on, and they had to understand what we were talking about. So they have individually, each of them has come to me in recent years and said, I got an MBA in marketing at your kitchen table.
Mm, right. It's that village that it can't be
It's
just
the
us.
village.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm happy to say, sharing time and friendship with some of the women who were at my table in 1981,
Mm,
were clients or co-workers. Uh,
mhm.
and here we are.
Lasting friendships.
Yes, yes, because we came through it together.
Yeah.
Sometimes they would go off and I then, but now we can keep track of people so much better on our
Right.
computers and our phones, which is wonderful. But so I got it early that it's
Okay.
about community, and food is community.
Mhm.
Food is a sacrament. Food is it's family, it's
It's
love, it's
sharing, it's
all
love. Oh, I
those
love that.
things.
Yeah.
So, and the cheaper the food is, the more likely it is to be healthy, which people are going, no, that's wrong. No, trust me. Okay, I have a confession to make. My husband and
Hmm.
I really like watching boring documentaries on TV. And a lot of people don't know that, but now you do. And we watched one the other night about forgotten vegetables from the Depression era.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Well, it was for me. I loved it because, and it was a British guy, so he pronounced it rutabaga, right?
Right.
But all these wonderful vegetables that are free, they just grow like crazy, grow year round, super nutritious. And yes, you got to stick some stuff in the ground or in a pot or whatever, or
Yeah.
recognize it when you go to the farmer's market. But it's a no cellophane world out there.
Yeah.
And it's cheap.
Yeah.
you know?
I love that we're geeking out about forgotten vegetables from the
Yes,
Depression.
yes, yes. But
My mom used to take us fiddlehead hunting, like was looking for fiddleheads, like
yes,
little like ferns in, and they were delicious. And
and
now I
beautiful.
understand were nutritious.
Oh yeah, beautiful. And dandelions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes, all
The old
that.
herbalist
Yeah.
women. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I'm also a great believer, because now you know why, in eating what you have. Open up that fridge
Mm.
and pull stuff out and fix it. So
Yeah.
my book is all about
Yes.
eating super healthy. And if you're vegan, it's covered. If you're vegetarian, we're covering you. If you want to put some meat and stuff, it's in there. And it's simple. And people have said to me, I don't cook. I'm sorry. You don't need to know how to cook.
Yeah.
Put a few things together in a pot and make them good.
Yeah.
It's what this is.
Simple.
Easy, fast, cheap, simple, healthy,
Yeah.
which I highly recommend. I don't
We've
want
gotten
to
so
kitchen.
complicated, haven't we? With
Yes,
recipes and this
yes.
particular strange ingredient that you have to go halfway across the world to find. And so I'm really fascinated by this book, Brownies for Breakfast.
And the brownies are you ready? They're
I'm
made
ready.
with canned pumpkin, which I want you to always have in your larder. It's
Okay.
beautiful food. It's healthy food. You open the can, you dump it in. And nut butter, also beautiful food, healthy food. You open the can, you dump it in. Those two ingredients do this magic thing that you would think was flour and sugar and grease,
Okay.
but it's not. It's a vegetable and nuts.
Okay. It sounds like all your food groups added a little bit of dairy, and there you go.
Well, or in this case, another health food, chocolate, cocoa. And I know you know about that.
Hmm. I've got my hot chocolate right here.
There you are. And there's nothing wrong with cocoa. Cocoa's brilliant food if there's no sugar in it. So, okay, so my secret, pumpkin, nut butter, and there's several recipes in there uh,
Okay.
for those things. But then here's the other thing I want everybody to know. Okay, you ready? Take notes.
Hmm. Okay.
Allulose, Allulose,
Okay.
allulose.
Tell me about that.
Terrible name,
Okay. That's not
but
good.
it's a brilliant sugar substitute. It's
Oh, okay. It is
one
good.
ingredient. It doesn't give you a tummy ache. It tastes just like sugar. It looks just like sugar. You can get it in a brown kind of golden, as if it were brown sugar. That's what I use all the time. Just be careful that it's not mixed with erythritol, which is a sugar substitute. Must be a lot cheaper because they're mixing it and everything. It will give
Okay.
you a tummy ache in most cases.
Okay.
I don't want that. But allulose is what you need, and you will never need sugar again.
And where do you get that from?
You
Is it from the
probably need to
grocery
get it
store?
online. I have
Okay.
a Substack out now, and I just did an article about looking for allulose on Montana
Okay.
Avenue in Santa Monica. You would think in Santa Monica, California, where
Mm.
every woman on the street is in stretchy little, Pilates clothes with their rear end hanging out, and, all buff and everything. You'd think you could find some healthier stuff there, but I had to really look for it. Um, Allulose on
Okay.
um,
And I'll direct people to your Substack as well it will drop the links below, but we can talk about
thank
that in a
you.
minute. Yeah.
Thank you. And I welcome questions. I love it when people send me pictures of stuff they've made from the book. The book is also out in Audible, which sounds weird,
Mm.
but people have told me, and I read it myself in my darling voice. And people have said, oh,
Oh.
that whole granny over the shoulder in the car kind of thing. So, okay.
Right? It probably adds a little bit of flavor to it.
Maybe so, but the idea is that these recipes are so simple that you can be driving along going, oh, you mean I just mix those two things?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
You don't have to
you just
remember.
mix those two things and you're good. One of my salad dressings that I use all the time is two ingredients, and it's not just vinegar and oil. and I'll
What is
just
it?
keep it a secret. You have to look it
Okay.
up.
Okay.
But lots of things in here are so dumb simple.
Right.
Even here's one, mushroom soup. What do you think about when you think of mushroom soup?
Well, I think of creamy, like cream, like high in fat, actually.
And you think of that can that
Yeah.
your mom opened up every holiday
Mm-hmm.
season and dumped it into stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mushrooms, you probably know this already, brilliant food.
Mm-hmm.
Super nutrient dense food.
Mm-hmm.
Low calories, high nutrition. All that's in my mushroom soup is mushrooms, onions, maybe a little olive oil. You can use a little butter if you want, and broth. That's it
Right. And that's it.
until the very end.
Okay.
Bourbon.
Oh, all right.
You have never had such wonderful mushroom soup. And if you want to impress friends, this is one of the ways to do it.
Lovely.
You put a little bit of yogurt and some chopped parsley on top of it.
Yeah. And so simple.
Cheap.
Oh, well, I'm going to have to, yeah, drop the link for that. But I'm curious how this ended up in the time that we have. I know it's a longer story than this, and I think I'll have to have you back. But how did this from around your kitchen table start to transform or continue to transform your own health through diabetes? Did the symptoms come when you were 40?
No, because guess why? I headed them off
Mm,
because I knew early that this was in my future and I didn't want that future.
hmm. You
I've
had a heads
always
up.
been very conscious. And so I worked hard to keep my weight down. I worked hard to include movement in my life all the time. And again, you got kids, you got crazy. Nobody was crazier than me
Mm,
when it comes to having too much stuff to do, too many things to think about. And don't forget my homicidal ex on top of all this.
hmm. It's a
I
lot.
knew to get through it, I was not going to leave my kids. I was going to be the last one standing. I was going to be on my feet no matter what. And to do that, I had to eat smart and move. And here's one more, sleep.
Yeah. Well, so many women do not get enough sleep, but busy, 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 busy.
And that, just like nutrition, is the thing you can't not do. I mean, we're all going to have times when we're up with a crying baby or, the dog does a thing or whatever. But you need to be as judicious with your sleep as
Hmm.
you are with your Pilates, with your movement, with whatever you're doing, dancing, and your food. It's just, it all works together. And it's actually, I knew it kind of inherently, but lately, a lot of the research that's come out, it's been fascinating about sleep, but I didn't know. And if you didn't know, I'm going to tell you now that the only time your body actually heals from anything is when you are in deepest REM sleep.
Mm, hmm. It's it's super important. Yeah.
Super important.
Yeah. And our circadian rhythms that we're finding out about now is just
Yes.
number one almost. Well, you've
Oh,
got three. You've got your sleep, movement, and eating. And I think if you nail those, your relationships and everything get better.
everything gets better because all of a sudden it's so clear what contributes to health and happiness and what doesn't.
It's not foggy anymore because you can think straight, I'm thinking. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I don't know about you, but without that sleep, especially, I mean, you can go without food.
Hmm.
Even people say, well, diabetes. No, now they're talking about fasting as being very
Hmm.
curative for diabetics. You can go without food for periods of time and be fine. You can't go without sleep. You can't.
Yeah. Yeah. Sleep and water. Yeah.
Mhm.
So Lynn, I'm as we're wrapping up, what I I can you tell us a little bit more? I'm curious what your favorite type of movement is, what you recommend for movement throughout the years. What have you found?
I'm a little bit obsessive about cleaning my house.
That's movement.
It's absolutely movement. I mean, anyone who has not scrubbed walls or had pets or cleaned up floors or whatever, come on, you're moving. It's good. Behind that, gardening. I'm obsessive about my garden. I so love, and I'm ignorant. I mean, I'm learning all the time. I'm not a particularly good gardener, but I'm a passionate and loving gardener. And I
Mm,
talk to all my green babies out there all the time. And I think that does.
yeah. I'm
Um,
sure they love it. They hear it, they love it, they grow. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
I
yes,
absolutely love that. And I'll tell you why, because I wanted to get out this afternoon and quote, exercise. And then there's a part of me that's like, "Oh, but you really should clean the house." So when this afternoon, when I'm finished everything, I'm going to just get out there. I'm going to put some music on and I'm going to
yes.
do my movement and end up with a clean house.
There you are. And so it's for me, it's countertenors, which I absolutely love, or swamp rock, one or the other. And yeah, super loud. And then just go for it. Get down on those
Yeah,
baseboards,
and just rock to it.
get those
I'm loving this
windows,
idea.
all of that. Right. And
To
then you
both kill two birds with one stone.
absolutely. And then the place smells great and it looks great. And you feel all accomplished and organized and everything. Uh,
Hmm.
but also, I think I already told you that I do 4 days a week
Hmm.
with a trainer.
Hmm.
This is one of the privileges of old age. And I love being able to go, and it keeps my days structured, which again, for someone who's older, who may not have a job that they have to go to or something, it helps me to have this structure in my life where 9:30 on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I am down in town, tiny
Yeah,
little,
yeah.
about 4 miles from my house. I am there in the gym with my friends, which also huge,
Mm,
huge, huge. And again, it's not just the exercise, it's not just the food, it's being there with loving people, friends,
yeah.
society.
The social aspect of it. It's
Yes.
so
And in my case,
healthy.
it's all women working out, and we
Mm,
have a guy trainer who's darling. Um, but I love that time
yeah.
in the morning. It's 1 hour, and I've started my day with movement, which also makes your whole day better. I mean, literally, you've charged up, you've got things flowing, you're
That's
good.
really
Now,
good
on
advice.
Tuesdays is when I do my heavy lifting and my super strength, and I'm deadlifting, which I ask him to call it not dead yet lifting.
Yeah.
Better, isn't it? Um, 60-pound kettlebells, and I can do about 10 reps before I start screaming. But this is what
That's
especially
incredible.
women need. I'm also
Hmm.
I'm applying topical bioidentical hormones.
Okay. That sounds like one for another podcast episode.
I
Yeah.
want to talk about that. Women need to know about this stuff.
Yeah. That it's available. Yeah.
Yes, and what the realities are about what it does and doesn't do, what's been said out there about it that's all wrong. And again, men have been taking testosterone for centuries, right?
Hmm.
But women, it's like, why would you want to do this? You're old.
Hmm.
All right.
But you're living and you could live another, who knows, 20, 40 years at the rate that you're going.
Well, and what's the title of your podcast?
Woman fully alive. And I want women
Yeah.
to feel alive until their very last breath, whatever that feels like, whatever that looks like, because it's going to be so different for every single woman. And I think what you've, as we come to the end here, Lynn, I think what you've touched on are some real keystones that don't have to be complicated. And we
No,
can all do them. We don't have to, be rich. We don't have to, go the extra, 50 miles to get an ingredient that we can actually start implementing today. And you are a living example of what that can feel. And because I guess that's what we want. We want to feel joy and alive. So I'm really thank you so much for taking us through that in this I think each one of those we could dive into separately for another episode. But I'd love to know any last words, and then where can people find you who want to just follow up on this right now?
Well, the easiest way is lynnebowman.com. Just make sure to spell my name right. It's Lynnne
Mm-hmm.
Bowman, and then you can find all the rest from that. Or you can just search for me anywhere and stuff will pop up because I'm on YouTube and but
Okay.
my Substack is new and I'm having fun with it. And I love it when people make comments on it or ask me questions or whatever. Also, if you've got the book and are making anything, send me a picture. Tell me how it turned out. Give
Okay.
me
I'm going to do
feedback.
that.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I've had such good feedback from people, including don't bake it at 350. I accidentally baked mine at 300 and they turned out even better. That kind of thing. The way
Yeah.
women communicate with each other is so important. There's nothing absolutely written in stone about this book that I wrote 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I will still stand by 99% of it, but there are a couple things where I want to expand and say, okay, actually, if you do this,
Mm-hmm.
a little, and it's just the way
Great.
women always talked about
Yeah,
recipes,
yeah, yeah.
child
I sure
raising,
appreciate
any of
that.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, throw all the links below and get a copy of the book and start, or just follow you on YouTube or Substack. And yeah, and we will see you back here again to dive in deeper into one of those topics sometime. Thank you.
I hope so, and I love our club idea.
Yes. Yeah. We get to meet so many amazing women through the podcast. So, yeah. Thank you so much, Lynn.
Thank you.